craving chocolate now. I don't know about you. I could smash a bag of
I'm
minstrels.
literally thinking I want like a box of Maltesers.
Oh.
I want them to roll around.
Here's a question for you. Do you keep your chocolate in the fridge?
No.
Oh, I think you must, James.
Room
No,
because you're interfering with... No.
You're not interfering.
You are. The chocolate is designed...
Not designed.
Yes, it's designed. Of course it is. Chocolate...
You know in Elf, when he eats the spaghetti candy chocolate mixture,
the sweet bolognese.
How much of that do you think you could eat before you passed out, died, threw up, or the other thing?
And he has quite a sizable portion.
And he really digs in. He gets it around the fork.
It's like syrup, M&Ms, and...
You've got wheat, sugar,
chocolate broken
all the gluten you need.
I reckon...
And that pasta's hot as well, so it's immediately melting the chocolate.
Question, have I just had a main course?
No,
this is my meal?
I'd say this is 7 o'clock in the evening. You haven't eaten since lunch, except for maybe a light rice cake at 4 o'clock.
The office, the functioning man's office snack.
Yeah.
Honestly, the thing is, when things are so sweet, it takes you down.
And
I've
you're
never
hungry
had
as well, so you're going to run into it.
I'll tell you what it has going for it. It has multiple textures. So yes, there's spaghetti and there's chocolate, but the M&Ms are going to give it a crunch that will take you through.
Yeah, artificial crunch, artificial flavour, artificial texture.
Yes, but that's what the whole ultra-processed food is built around. Like the Oreo is a smooth and crunchy combo that is what we like to eat continuously. So I reckon if I did not have respect for myself and I was in a dark place, I could do 3/4 of that.
You think you could eat 75% of that? I think I could.
I wouldn't be happy about it. Like, what's on the line?
I think I could.
Is it for a dare, or is like has Buddy the Elf got my family?
But then
with a gun.
I think once you hit 75%, then bad things would happen to you.
It wouldn't be good.
It wouldn't be good. I think I could probably hit 60%, maybe 65 before I'm like,
I need to have another look.
Water.
Also, American chocolate's disgusting.
Oh,
Can I choose?
I'm sorry, it is actually. It's not like chocolate is different in every single country, but that is like extremely processed. It's like another level.
Is spaghetti and melted chocolate disgusting?
Yes.
Yeah, it is, right?
I don't need to be a scientist to tell you.
I'm just trying to think, like, if you made me a melted, really high quality chocolate spaghetti,
with nothing else. With nothing else.
Yeah, like imagine a tomato sauce, but it's melted chocolate.
No. Okay, so forget all the other ingredients except
like
for the spaghetti and the chocolate. What you have is essentially wheat and chocolate, which is no different to, let's say, an eclair without the stuffing, or a donut without the stuffing. It could work.
The starchiness of pasta might just... And then you can have, instead of parmesan, you just have chocolate sprinkles.
Chocolate truffles. Chocolate's on our mind today because we're talking about Wonka, obviously. Yes. And I made sure when I went to see Wonka that I got myself a bag of minstrels. Other chocolates are available because I knew that I'd be watching.
BBC. You could just say minstrel.
I know, but I'm just being editorially fair.
Any chocolate brand can get in touch.
Because I knew what would happen. I'd be sat watching that film and I'd go, I really want some chocolate now.
Yeah, I didn't have chocolate and I wished I had chocolate. But then I thought, is it too much chocolate?
Do you know what? It's going to make me sound like
the ick from my own chocolate. Because what I have would be like minstrel Malteser equivalent caliber. And he's like, this is bottled lightning and the tears of a blah, blah, blah all in one. You never had chocolate?
Yeah, that's right. He's not Chris Rock.
What do you mean you had chocolate? Jada? You never had chocolate? I love it. My name is Willy Wonka.
The backup, the having the minstrel. This is going to make me sound like a 6-year-old or over the age of 60, or an OAP. As
you are in a sort of granddad's vest.
It is a little bit. I thought this was perfectly modern, actually.
It's very trendy and cool.
Thank
but
you.
Like in a sort of post.
It says you in a fucking grandpa near. Look at you. That looks like it should be on the bathroom floor of a 70s home. Anyway, back up. In terms of sweets, I do like a Werther's original. You ever had a Werther's original?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're not for me, but I've had one.
Oh, I love them. But every time I get them out, people are like, all right.
Just
all right,
remind me
Grandad.
of stale car, unfortunately.
Stale car?
The taste reminds me of the taste of a stale car.
What is a stale car?
A stale car.
You say that like that's a known phrase.
Well, no, it's like it's a feeling, it's an idea. Like the Werther's originals are what stay in the
the glove compartment.
Glove compartment.
Or the bit right by the
any car drawer,
gearbox.
or even the door one, the door slot. So it sits there for an entire summer. And then like someone's like, oh yeah, I had a long thing. I have some sweets, and you unpack this sweaty Werther's original, and it tastes like car.
I feel like the same with jelly beans.
Yes, jelly beans. The dustiness of jelly beans. I'm like, is it dusty because of the sugar, or is it just old?
I'm not sure. I don't like sweets. I won't touch Haribo.
Whoa.
Won't go near it.
So I'm not a huge sweet. I'm more of a chocolate guy.
I've seen you eat Haribo.
Oh yeah, I like Haribo.
Yeah, you really do.
You see me with the candy kittens at the fancy events.
Oh my
we go
goodness.
To.
I told you back. You couldn't get enough. You were stealing some.
I will take mine, and then I'll do the 6 seats around me and clear them.
And if I'm feeling indulgent, might have one and go, oh yeah, that's quite sweet.
I have this like starvation mentality, like I can't afford a packet of candy kittens like in my regular life. Like there's some luxury items. Well, any sweets. I'm like, James, if you want sweets on your way home, you can get sweets.
Yeah.
But I think I'm at an event. I'm treating myself.
Someone told me this once. But the great thing about being an adult is that if you want to, James,
if you want the cookie.
If you want, you could buy an entire chocolate cake,
yeah.
Go home, eat it all, and it doesn't matter.
No one's
going to tell you off.
Yeah.
You're not in trouble. That's fine. You will feel terrible, but it's yours to do.
Don't you spend like your childhood years being like, well, I'll one day just have cake for dinner.
Yeah.
And that'll be it.
You do what Buddy the Elf does.
It's really sad.
Just say, well,
it's really sad. You grow up and you're like, well, you know.
Well, actually, I'll be having no caffeine after 4 o'clock.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm trying to cut down on sugar and
God.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome to episode 106 of Pulp Kitchen. Like we mentioned, we are going to be talking about Wonka, the big movie release at the moment. Diabetics, beware. Confectionery is coming your way with this movie. But we're also going to be talking about
The Boy and the Heron, the new Studio Ghibli Hayao Miyazaki
film. Yes, exactly. Which
very
loads of my
fresh.
friends, I've had lots of people messaging me being like, are you going to see it? They saw it, we posted it on our story because you were able to go to a screening, I couldn't make it.
Saw some fellow film creators out there.
Yeah, hello to them. And they were like, oh, are you seeing The Boy and the Heron? I said, I haven't, but we're going to be talking about it. So
coming in fresh, coming in hot.
We're doing that. And I hope everyone's staying well in this dark time. I am very, very much affected by the lack of light. I mean, I know everyone is, but I realise that every year I think I get worse.
I was just in Scotland, George, and I know London isn't Barbados, but I really felt the
geographical
shift. Yeah. I did Edinburgh, Glasgow, Inverness, and I know it's cloudy here. And
Shout
I know
out to any
it's
Scottish
here.
listeners.
I do love Scotland. I have a lot of fondness for Scotland. But honestly, so every day I woke up at a very normal time, like 7:15, 7:30, and I thought it was 4 a.m. because it was just pitch black. And in my mind, I was like, God, I'm so tired. And I was like, no, James, you've had 8 hours sleep.
Yeah.
It's just dark. And then the sun maybe comes up at 11, and by 2:30, it just goes, peace, I'm out. Have a good 18 hours left of your night.
And that's if there's no cloud cover.
Yeah.
What we've been having here, I'm sure you was same in Scotland, grey cloud cover. The colour of the sky was the same at 11 o'clock in the morning today as it was at 4.
Yeah.
I mean maybe 3 even because it's getting darker, but it was insane.
And in Scotland, it's just dark, grey, cloud. And I love the architecture in Glasgow and Edinburgh, and I visited Inverness. It's beautiful, and it's like what a lot of London would have looked like if it hadn't been destroyed in the Blitz. But it gets...
I'll get back to that.
Anyway, you're probably...
Sorry, a bit of architectural history.
Old school things, but it's very grey. It's like water power jetted stone, and it gets damp and it looks soggy. But otherwise peaceful. George, architecture correction.
No, I was just going to say that's not entirely true. It wasn't portions of London that were destroyed in the Blitz weren't significant enough to wipe out like entire areas of that. I mean, yes, there was damage, but it's more that London was obviously grew so much more as a capital city than those other places. Yes. So you do still get your Fitzrovias and your districts and the Chelseas that maintain that architectural style you're talking about. But with the growth of London and also the upward growth with buildings being replaced, you get slightly less of that. I think it's more the...
It's not like Edwardian style architecture.
It's Georgian, I think you're thinking of. And it's the consistency. There's less consistency in London because there is more expansion, I believe. And there is more of it.
Yeah.
Someone help me out here, but there you go.
I was lucky enough to shoot on a hotel rooftop in Edinburgh, and the silhouette of all of the spires and the bulbous domes, just stunning.
So why don't we get on with talking about some films then to cheer ourselves up in these dark months? Away we go.
The Boy and the Heron. I, like you, had a couple of other people said from LFF, oh yeah, The Boy and the Heron looks interesting. I want to see The Boy and the Heron. And I was like, yeah, The Boy and the Heron. That's from Studio Ghibli. Definitely catches my eye. A film from animator, creator, Hayao Miyazaki. Yeah. Hayao Miyazaki, star-studded cast. You've got Soma...
Dubbed cast.
A dubbed cast, yeah. My screening, I was informed by the company running the screening, this is the first UK screening or day of UK screenings with the UK dubbed cast members. You've got Soma Santoki, who plays our main character, Mahito. You've got Robert Pattinson, Christian Bale, Mark Hamill, Florence Pugh, Willem Dafoe, Gemma Chan, Dave Bautista. Wow. I mean, I think Studio Ghibli has such a cachet amongst film lovers and actors. Everyone probably want to be a part of it. I will say, I saw the cast list but hadn't memorized it, and it was nice to hear those actors. Like, oh, that's Dave Bautista. Oh, that's probably Willem Dafoe. Robert Pattinson, I didn't know who was cast as who. I did not hear him. And then I come out and I'm like, oh, he's the Heron. And the Heron, for part of this film, he kind of sounds like a New York guy.
I thought it was Willem Dafoe doing that bit.
No, Willem Dafoe does another iteration of thing. And I was like, that was Robert Pattinson?
Wow.
How it? But anyway, you would never guess Robert Pattinson from that. Anyway, Boy and the Heron is about a 12-year-old named Mahito. In the opening of the film, in Tokyo, Mahito's mother dies in a very tragic hospital fire in Tokyo. And because of that, his distant father takes him, played by Christian Bale, takes him away to the countryside, away from danger. It's set in the 1940s. And there's this dynamic where his father, Shoichi, is now with a new woman who's actually his mother's sister. Oh. Who is now, slightly tricky, who's now pregnant with who will be his new brother or sister. So there's this sort of like proxy mother thing going on where his aunt very much reminds him of his mother, and he's sort of, grieving. He's angry and he's sad, and he's 12 years old. He's on the cusp of manhood. And while he descends into this beautiful countryside, and there's this gaggle of old women who are sort of obsessed with the fact that they've got a young boy coming to their sort of grand, sort of estate with vast gardens. And every time he closes his eyes, he's haunted by visions of his mother burning in a fire. And when he dreams at night, he sees his mother burning in fire, and she says, help me, you have to come and save me. And while all that's going on, in the beautiful grounds of where he's staying in the countryside, he is taunted by a heron that speaks and pats on his window, and he tells him something like, your presence is requested. And the heron essentially flies off into the surrounding forest area and leads him towards this old structure, this old tower from another time. And so the film sort of evolves, and what happens is he descends into this old structure. And from about an hour into the film, we enter this multiversal dreamscape of different universes and realities, swarming with birds, pelicans, parakeets, cute little Clefairy-looking creatures called...
Clefairy?
The Pokemon.
Thank you.
Yes, called Waka Waka Ware Ware. And so what you then have is a complete departure from a grounded literal plot, and instead you float into this completely different echelon, right? And I thought I had to tell myself, because it had been almost an hour until that moment where I realized what I'm seeing is not necessarily what I should be interpreting, or not necessarily what I need to be taking as fact. I sort of had to retrain myself while I was watching it to not look, but instead try and just infer a feeling of what it was doing. And this was, I after the fact, Googled that it's actually a very personal story to Miyazaki, and the Japanese title Boy and the Heron translates to how do you live in some translation, don't ask me how. And so it's very much about how Miyazaki lost his mother at a very similar age and moved away from his home with his father, and had a very similar dynamic going on with basically understanding how could he go on without his mother. And you can see these very fantastical, elevated versions of people in his life in this sort of heightened dreamscape. There are sort of like kingly figures and godlike figures and mothers that are sort of represented at different parts of his life. So what you see is a little boy who is grieving, growing up, entering puberty, someone who is really trying to realize what it means to move on. And it's got as per Studio Ghibli, incredibly striking visuals, gorgeously drawn and animated. I really thought the sound design was brilliant. Every little footstep on stone or squelch in mud was just really well done. And then later, when all of that is pumped up to 11, it really does an amazing service to it. And structurally, you see these sort of multiversal reality concepts we've seen before, like, you know, the Hall of Corridors in The Matrix and all the different doors, or Monsters Inc. even. Like, well, these are doors to different realities you can open and close and abandon forever. Like that, those kind of things were there. So while its sense of place and groundedness is abandoned, right, and you do sort of end up floating, it always had a really clear sense of emotional clarity. And even though what I was seeing was so different and so vastly contrasted the scene before and you're existing in dream logic, I still throughout that had a very good sense of what emotion this film was trying to communicate. That being said, in the last half, I think my patience with it just ever so slightly got tested, right? And so, you know, what you get with The Boy and the Heron is a film that's taking 20 different ways to tell you a lot of the same thing. Right. And I can't help but think that after such a long time, you probably could have done 4 or 5 when I would have really understood the allegory that you were saying already. So towards the end, when you depart from being grounded and you float me along for such a long time and you don't bring me back in, I'm a little bit like, yes, this is beautiful. I still understand exactly what emotional beat you're playing to. We're doing it again. Okay. Yet still beautiful. Still very captivating. Still heartbreaking. I just got a little bit lost along the way. So towards it, I was like, now I'd like you to sort of bring me back a bit. That being said, very heartwarming. I really like the note that it ends on. Really good performances. I think it will be an interesting one. I don't think everyone will. I think if you go in thinking...
just so everyone knows, your relationship with Studio Ghibli...
I've seen Spirited Away once, years ago.
Okay. I've seen Spirited Away, I think, twice when I was a kid. Loved it. Need to revisit it as an adult.
Me too. I'd like to too.
I also watched... not Howl's Moving Castle. I watched My Neighbor Totoro, which I know is like the most iconic one. And I actually was kind of like, sort of fairly like, fine with that. But I know people who are just so, you know, Princess Mononoke and all that kind of stuff.
There's a lot of common themes of death, a world beyond ours, the passing of loved ones, trying to contemplate the idea of someone being gone, animals communicating in ways that only a child is privy to. There's a lot of ideas of like, and you can totally tell it's someone recalling sad memories of how they process and interpret the world. And I feel I don't want to say it should be compressed because I don't think that's true. It's more that you meander for such a long time. I don't want to take away from this very personal expression of grief from someone, I think, thinking back to their childhood. I'm just a little bit like, don't leave me wandering for such a long time. You
don't let me come unstuck.
Yes, and it's not like it kept evolving for me. I was like, this is the same idea. I think you've said a lot of times. So just a tad repetitive for me. But other than that, very, very beautiful.
Please let us know if you have seen, listeners, The Boy and the Heron, and let us know your thoughts, because there's a lot of buzz around it, and those are James's initial thoughts, 3 hours fresh from the Pulp Kitchen. Write into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and let us know your thoughts.
And Dave Bautista is an actor who I think is, seen in Guardians. He has a really great comedic presence. Yeah. And sometimes when I hear his voice, especially when he plays this king character, and when he really exclaims and gets passionate, something about it, and I think this is just me, kind of laughs. He's like, everybody needs to rally behind me. And I'm like, it's kind of like when Drax shouts. But he's really good in it, and all the cast are very good. Christian Bale is like the doting father. Yeah.
Christian Bale's great in a movie. Shocker.
Yeah. Christian Bale.
That was The Boy and the Heron. James, shall we talk about Wonka?
Let's do it.
Which is a film that I feel like has grown in parallel with our show, because we talked about it episode 2 or something. We got the first still image of
another list of films that we covered. You and I can date it to the start of us doing this.
Yeah, we've been doing this show long enough that films have been, incepted, produced, made, and released.
It was like, do you heard about what Nolan's doing next?
That's
a big nuclear bomb. Big.
He's not doing it with Warner Brothers. Yeah. And here it is at last, Wonka, the big release of the month. At the time of recording, not released in the US yet, but has already taken approximately a gazillion chocolate notes.
It goes straight onto our list of Christmas films that aren't Christmas films.
Yes.
It's very Christmassy.
Yes.
It snows throughout.
Yes.
Wintry.
So,
sorry.
Let's talk about Wonka. Wonka, as everyone can, is probably aware, some people have, there's a little bit of, I think, confusion online about whether this is a direct prequel meant to have it like lineage to the Gene Wilder 1971 version.
Okay.
Whereas I'm just happy for it to be
Wonka.
an imagination of that character when he was younger.
Yeah.
Because some people have been like, well, hang on a minute. If he does this, and I'm like, for me, there is no causality. There are separate entities. This is just an imagination of what that character could be like when he was younger.
Like IP contract running out, must renew
Well,
to continue.
Yeah. Oh, I will say actually that's the one bit of DNA that does connect it to the 70s one, is that the creature design for the Oompa Loompa is exactly the same. Let's not forget that. Anyway, so, and you haven't seen and I will say that I obviously I've seen it, like most people have, a lot of times, and I rewatched it at Christmas a couple of years ago, and I was really surprised at how, not just how good it was, but still how funny, witty, subversive, clever that film remains, and also brilliant to watch. It's so technicolor and great. It was 1971. Anyway. So Wonka is directed by Paul King and co-written by Paul King and Simon Farnaby, who are the writing duo behind the Paddington films. And they bring that sort of Paddington-level charm to this story about a outsider arriving in a strange land, trying to make their fortune with a confectionery-related food substance. Wonka follows young Willy Wonka arriving on a ship to an unknown location that is kind of set in a period of time that's kind of like a turn of the century, 1900s. Yeah, it's Dickensian without any sinisterness, in it. Although you have a kind of Olivia Colman's character is probably the most Dickensian in it.
You've got Cockney accents, Brooklyn accents,
you've got
American
everything.
accents. People are hanging out.
It's a multicultural melting pot, and it is, in terms of the production design, it is a location that blends, I would say, Bath, Edinburgh, Oxford, Paris.
Literally Oxford in a couple of shots.
Literally Oxford, and literally Bath as well. Prague, and a touch of Venice as well.
That's actually really well
Thank
cited
you.
there.
Because it's not London. There's nothing London about it. No. It's this kind of Georgian fin de siècle, turn of the century. The police uniforms in it are very Parisian, kind of Prussian.
No new technology, analog telephone.
Absolutely. This kind of like steampunk
typewriter
aesthetic. Yes, lots of clinks and clanks and pulleys and whistles and steam and that kind of era.
Levers.
And levers. Willy Wonka arrives in this town seeking to make his fortune, by which we know he means his chocolate fortune. He's got an idea about chocolate, he's got a passion, and he's looking to set up a shop in the Galerie Gourmet, which is this gallery, the shopping gallery, in this town where the three main chocolate brands, including Slugworth, which anyone who knows the original... actually, I think all of them are mentioned in the original film. It's just Slugworth, Fickelgruber, and the other one, headed by Patterson Joseph, Matthew Bainton, and Matt Lucas, to also sell chocolate in this area. Also, sorry, can I just say, don't be afraid. We will not be doing spoilers in this.
Yeah, spoilers. As always.
I'm aware that a lot of people like myself, I wanted to, are saving this for Christmas time to watch with their families, Christmas Eve, that kind of thing. And I am actually going to go back with my family and see it. It's one of those times where I'm happy to have seen it for the show, but if you'd given me the choice, I think I probably prefer to have waited and seen it with people, just because, like chocolate, nice to be shared and enjoyed with other people, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, so of course, though, he immediately meets challenges of life and in terms of financing and money, and gets ensnared into the clutches of Olivia Colman and finds himself with a sort of ragtag crew of people working underground, and he's desperate to break in and get his own shop. And the three main chocolatiers, headed by Slugworth, form what they call the Chocolate Cartel. And there's this really fun... The storyline is essentially this kind of like pseudo Breaking Bad, pseudo drug dealing narrative about trying to break the cartel and set up as an entrepreneurial upstart. I kid you not, there's a couple of moments in it that I was like, this is really, in a bizarre way, reminding me of The Godfather Part 2. the Vito Corleone, Robert De Niro bit where he's arrived into America from Sicily, and he's trying to set up his business, and even the costume design of some of the chocolatiers mimics, I think, the early 1900s gangsters, Sirens on Our End, of The Godfather Part 2. And I just for a second I thought, I think there's a little detail in there. So it's twinkly and it's charming, and it's this sort of rose tinted, literally like the velvet coloured jacket that he wears. That's the story. It's him trying to bust into the chocolate cartel and break it down and start himself up. James, what did you think of Wonka?
Just on your cartel point, you know what's funny is that I've heard it's either a couple of entrepreneurs or other people who've tried to set up confectionery businesses, and they have described the very monopolized, established group of confection, like your Nestle's and your whatever, apparently have this Loctite seal on shelf space in grocery stores and distribution at Walmart, and it apparently is nigh impossible to try and break into that like cereal confectionery market because it's so established and the production lines globally are enforced. So there's something quite, I think, meta about that kind of, not to the same extent, but being very true. Look, it is super charming, super sweet, pun intended.
Yes.
And Timothée Chalamet is like a Labrador puppy bounding around with loads of charm. Sirens on our end. And I really enjoyed the cartel and all the smarminess. And you sort of forgot to mention it's a musical all the way through.
Absolutely. No lies about it. It doesn't try to hide the fact. This is an out-and-out musical.
And I think I remember it was a musical, but when the singing started, I was like, yes, of course, musical. Yes. Cue 7 or 8 musical numbers throughout. Here's the thing. I think if you're wondering, like I was, and like I think we were coming into this film, is this the type of very sweet film where it's all about the friends we made along the way? It is exactly that film. It is exactly all about the friends we made along the way. Yeah. And I think overall I had a very nice time with it.
Everyone's a bit sweet inside,
Everyone's super sweet, and everyone... I think Hugh Grant, when doing press for this, was describing how Paul King is one of those people that really likes people.
Yes.
And you can see that in his writing. And he was like, yes, he really likes people. What a pervert. It's like, I don't know how that can be. And that's a sense of loving people, loving who they really are, bringing out the best of them is there for that film. I think when I go and see a film of a Paddington Wonka style film, I think overall Wonka was a bit soft and didn't quite give me that emotional gut punch I thought it was going to deliver. There is a bit of a punch, and it's very sweet. But when you're sweet for such a long time, I kind of want you to swing that pendulum back and be a little bit nasty and not so mushy.
That's right.
And it's a bit mushy.
That's a very good point. That's kind of why I jump in, because on the whole, like you, I think it's wholesome, twinkly, sweet, easy, breezy, absolutely fine for this type of season. Go and see it with your family, all that stuff. But if I had a reservation, for me, I think that what the film just kind of lacks is that in achieving all that sweet wonder, it just loses the weird, eccentric, bizarreness of not only what Willy Wonka is a character, but of what Roald Dahl, of all his stories. And I was watching... first of all, just talking about the character of Willy Wonka, I was watching him and I was thinking... I'm loving this nice guy, but what makes Willy Wonka interesting is that he is mysterious, a bit of a trickster. In this, he's like a benevolent magician, but he's actually a trickster. If you think about the original movie, that whole... I mean, again, I know you haven't seen it, but there's so many iconic bits where, you know, the arrival, when we first see him, where he tricks the audience into thinking he's an old man. So basically, for those who don't remember, the scene in the original is that, you know, all the crowds gather around. No one's seen Willy Wonka in years, and he comes out and he's hobbling on his stick, and then he pretends to fall down and collapse, but then that fall becomes a forward roll, and he celebrates. And Gene Wilder put that in as a suggestion because he said, from that moment on, you'll never know whether to believe him or to not believe him. And it's not because he's not trustworthy. He's not sinister, but he is a mysterious figure and eccentric and full of weird stuff. This is the guy, of course, who lets children eat random sweets and get deposited off in a factory. And there's a couple of times I thought, I really need that kind of eccentric weirdness in this to counterbalance all the sweetness. Yeah. And I think it's not just a matter of personal taste, no pun intended, but because, and I'll read out an email in a second that touches on this. You and I have spoken about how memorable or how long-lasting this film is going to be. Yeah. Because we talked about Mary Poppins Returns.
It's going to be a classic. It's trying to be a classic. It's going.
This film is, and having now seen it, I think this film is giving Mary Poppins Returns.
Totally.
And the reason I bring that up about that leaning into that weirdness, that slightly more sinister tone, is because that is actually the stuff that gets under your skin and makes you remember something, makes you connect to something. Having it be this sort of sweet, lovely moment of escapism is fine and enjoyable, but I do think that doesn't connect on a deeper level. You need the slightly sort of darker, questioning moments. In the end of Willy Wonka, where he tricks Charlie into, sorry, spoiler for the 52-year-old film that you haven't seen, James, but where Charlie's the last child and he tricks him into thinking that he's made the mistake, and he says, you know, you lose. Good day to you, sir. Like, that's a brilliant moment, especially when it's revealed that he's lying. But you needed more, I think, like trapdoor moments like that. It's fine without it. And I will just say one thing I love is the absolute amount of British talent on screen. And this is becoming like a slightly nationalist point, which I don't want it to be, but basically Simon Farnaby and Paul King, they're part of a generation of British comedy talent that's on show in this film. Yeah. With the likes of, and just talking about actors, Patterson Joseph, Matthew Bainton, Matt Lucas. I can't remember the guy, but the guy who plays the foil opposite Olivia Colman. Tom Davis, I think his name is.
Something,
Phil Wang, Charlotte Ritchie, just all these. Oh, and Big Sue's from Big Picture. They're all turning up in there. And I like that because so much often of British comedic talent is confined to the small screen. So to see it not only on the big screen, but in one of the big studio films, I really like seeing that. And the moments, for me, the film is at its best when it's delivering those moments in its earnest. So the stuff with Simon Farnaby actually playing the security guard at the zoo, like he plays the security guard in all the Paddington films. Actually, he gives himself always a security guard role. I think if I may continue, is that it's hard to compare it to Paddington films, and we shouldn't do because they're different beasts. But I don't think it reaches those heights. I couldn't help shake the feeling that in Paddington it was super inventive every single minute, every single thing. It was delighting you with surprises and whims and jokes and reference, and it just was so full of care and detail.
And sickly sweet.
Exactly. But that's the thing about Paddington is that has sadness in it, more of an emotional sadness, I think, with his family. And I think also Nicole Kidman in the first one wants to stuff him. She wants to like kill him and stuff him. But with where was I going with that? What was I saying? Paddington. I can't help but feel that this is a little bit like a studio-sanctioned Paddington version where just the edges have just been trimmed off a bit. The humor pacing is slowed down a tad, and they've just kind of smoothed it out, ironed out some of the quirkiness. We think of Roald Dahl, we think of Willy Wonka, we think quirky, strange. And I think sometimes I could just slightly hear a studio hand going in, that's great. Can we just make that a little bit more like this for the wider audience? And that's okay, but I think that's what's just stopping it from me loving it just as much as like a Paddington film.
I also got this sense that the actors, who are all very good in it and very well cast, were very slightly too familiar with the roles that they've been given. Like Sally Hawkins can do that role in her sleep. She's done that a million times. And like all the other people, I think, I'm this stock character.
Olivia Colman.
I'll do that. And it's sort of a sense of I want my actor, it sounds quite sadistic, to be a little bit on edge and challenged by what they do to deliver that.
Yeah, Rowan Atkinson
really
doing a role he can do in his sleep.
Rowan Atkinson literally could do that and
he does it well. Don't get me wrong.
And as always, I'm so happy to see Rowan Atkinson in anything. I think about the final delivery of films, which throughout them I'm not necessarily that impressed with, but towards the end I go, wow, that was the trick.
Yeah,
you got me. And like Elemental this year, I didn't love.
Oh right, yeah.
But really delivered an emotional punch. Onward, similarly, I thought was fine, but that film is devastating. If you've seen it, and Coco, I actually like Coco all the way through, but you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. I was a little bit blue-balled.
Oh really? I think it's like the emotional bit at the end. Like I get it, it's fine, but I think you're right. It's because it's been so sweet and kind of safe for so long. I never really felt like that kind of emotional thing at the end was earned. I never really felt imperiled throughout the whole thing. There was not.
There was one point where like, oh, they're gonna fall in chocolate. And shame. Devastating.
I think you can kind of see in Chalamet's performance that point I was saying about. I sometimes think he's playing it how the script wants him to be, which is sweet. But I think he sometimes would like to be weirder. But I think that sometimes leaves him a bit of a nether zone. There's one particular moment, and I will say that like with the way that films are shot and edited, it's a bit hard to pull out. It's a bit unfair to pull out like one particular section because that might have been shot on a different day with the next bit that's stitched together. But where he says, and I'm paraphrasing him, but he goes like, I'm going to make you some chocolate. How do you like it? Dark, nutty, absolutely insane. And I'm like, that was really weird. You've not done that for the rest of the film.
Yeah.
And then he reverts back into being normal. And I think you wish you were weirder and stranger.
Yeah, because I think, do you expect a film called Wonka, which is a prequel, whatever, another universe? Do you want to have, I think probably we want a bit of better understanding of how Willy Wonka becomes the Willy Wonka in his final form that we know him to be. What makes him that, you do get a sense in the books and the films, but like what makes him that kooky person? Is it all the traveling he did and all the crazy things he saw? What makes him that subversive, kooky weirdo that is able to do brilliant things? But instead he sort of already arrived very much,
he's already a chocolate genius
who just had a bit of a traumatic childhood with absent parents. It's like, okay,
yeah, that's not really that explored.
No.
I think that
that's the thing, does Willy Wonka grow? I'm not going to spoil it. Does he grow that much in this film? Is he in mostly the same place emotionally at the start as the end? I don't think there's that much in it.
Do you know what else I think is crucial is that Willy Wonka as a character has never been the main character. We see him through Charlie Bucket's eyes, right?
Yeah.
In the original and in the original book. But making him the main character, I think that puts an unfair weight on him to be multidimensional. Or something like, I was actually thinking about Doctor Who when I was watching it. And we'll talk about Doctor Who in a bonus this week because we're talking about the 60th anniversary, etc.
Yeah.
But similarly, an eccentric character that you kind of follow and wears a big coat. But like with Doctor Who, you're always brought into that character with the companions, aren't you?
Yeah.
From the outside. And I kind of think that by making him the main character, I don't know if that necessarily works. I think that's probably the limit of what we can nitpick because ultimately it's still a perfectly breezy time.
The film is not meant for two guys who are 29 to analyse.
No,
it's not
at all.
That's not what it's designed for.
I will say, I think there was only one song that I kind of tapped my foot to.
Which one?
Scrub Scrub.
Yeah, Scrub was good.
But did you hear any other song in it apart from the ones we already know?
Yeah,
and
I enjoyed a couple of them. I'm not like skipping it. I'm not listening to the soundtrack. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. The music was fine. I really liked the. There's a reference to. He can make chocolates that can make you do anything. For example, this one makes people sing and dance in perfect choreography.
Oh yeah,
I really laughed because everyone was then doing it.
Do you agree with me when I say that it is Mary Poppins Returns?
It gives that energy,
and that's not
sure.
an insult because Mary Poppins Returns similarly perfectly breezy
Very
time.
good.
Enjoyed it. Good performances, but
It's the young fun family. Take everyone to the cinema film for this year. And I so like, as we're recording, it's not yet out in the States. It's done huge numbers in the UK and Europe, and I assume it's going to have a huge market in the US.
So Emily, friend of the show, Emily wrote in with an email that just says, Wonka! And she says, "Hi, James and George. I hope you're having a lovely, cozy December. I always imagine living in London at Christmas time would feel like a rom-com, but maybe the reality isn't so quaint. It isn't so quaint unless you really find, if you really work.
You can make it.
You can find it.
You can totally do it. It's there for you. But chances are, if you live here, you're not indulging in that side of London.
Actually, I will read your Wonka email, but just on that, I had a really quaint thing the other day. So Anna and I went into town, admittedly, on the weekend during Christmas time. Very busy, but we knew that. We just wanted to kind of walk around. Ended up going to a bar. Had an amazing drink. It was fantastic. Yeah. So good that we thought, okay, we'll have another different one on the menu. Went for like a martini. Don't usually get that. Fantastic. We were there at this bar for maybe 2 hours. Had a really nice time. And we interacted with the staff a normal amount, had a little bit of conversation. Got to the end, our first round was just free.
Oh, that's nice.
They just gave it to us for free. Yeah. And we were we were completely bevved up by that point. Not on the martinis, which is just like pure ethanol. Yeah. We're like, thanks so much. And they were like, it's Christmas.
I had the same thing in Edinburgh.
Really?
I was filming in a Christmas market, which was gorgeous, very Christmassy in Edinburgh, on their main shopping street, which was like busy, but not in a horrible like Oxford Street right away. Anyway, loads of gorgeous like sweet mulled wine, sweet things, this huge pick and mix thing. And I've been filming and I literally just want like a pick me up. Yeah. You know those blue dolphins with marshmallow on them? The sweet, like the pick and mix. If you guys will know. No. And I literally go to the guy. Like, I don't have sweets. I was like, hi, I'd love to just quickly buy a dolphin. And he's like, yeah, sure, just have one. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I was like, how much? He's like, that's all right, you can just have it. I was like, really?
That's like a Wonka moment, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's like, yeah, it's Christmas, man, have it.
Oh,
I was like,
nice.
Thank you so much, Merry Christmas.
Anyway, Emily, back to your email. I thought I'd write to share my feelings on Wonka as I seem to be on a different page to everyone else. I thought it was fine, but I probably will never think about it again after I've written this email. My main issue with it is not the film itself, but the fact that we've been told it's a prequel to Gene Wilder's 1971 version of Wonka.
So we have been told.
I looked that up earlier. I don't know if we've explicitly been told that. It's slightly unclear, but according to Emily, we have. Timothy's characterization did not resemble Gene Wilder's interpretation of Willy Wonka to me, and I think it would have I would have enjoyed the film more if it was marketed as a standalone project, which I kind of thought it was.
I thought so too.
Wilder's version was intriguing whilst being a little unnerving, yes. But I loved it as a kid. You know what this film is missing? It's the boat ride, the little ingredient I know you haven't seen it, James, but you know that there is no way of knowing.
Yeah.
That slight level of unnerving sinisterness could have been good. Emily goes on to say, the original film was eccentric and mesmerizing. You really thought that Wonka was a little sadistic at points, but that's all part of the intrigue. Yes, intrigue.
And also that sense of someone who's not spoken to anyone for decades.
Exactly. And eccentric.
Yeah.
I feel this is a problem across children's films these days. They're too sugary. It's as though modern filmmakers don't think children can handle darker tones in their movies. But I'm sure that's what makes them rewatchable. As a 90s baby, I loved the creepy scene in Hercules where he jumped into that weird green portal into hell. Do you remember Return to Oz with the creepy wheelies and the cabinets of heads? That was so spooky, but I think about it now. Family films seem to be so on the nose these days with good and bad characters and predictable plot when actually children are the perfect audience to throw all the weirdness and concepts at the wall. Like I said, it wasn't bad, but it's going to go down as one of the great... But it's not going to go down as one of the great family movies. However... I got so excited every time I saw Matthew Bainton on the screen. Now that's a character actor. Apologies, this is a long email and potentially makes no sense. Sirens on our end. Emily, I think that's a really good email. And you pick out a lot of things. I agree with all the language you've used there about Wonka being, he should be eccentric and mesmerizing and full of intrigue. And that idea you say about do children's films pull back and are mainstream, big budget, mass audience studio films too safe, not willing to engage in darker tones. Is that a fair criticism?
I think that's very fair. And you can see that in the animations as well. Because very clear lines being drawn. And
I think that it's not like it's not about it goes beyond personal taste, because I do genuinely believe that the heartwarming parts of the story, the sweeter parts of the story, would be sweeter and more heartwarming if you inject it with a little darkness.
Threat.
I mean, there's a scene in Wonka where he literally breaks down the ingredients of a chocolate. And I feel like doing that with that film. I'm like, yeah, we've got the sweetness. It's fantastic. It's lovely. But you need like a bit of dark cherry in there. A little salt with your caramel.
I feel like Hugh Grant was slightly underused.
There's not a lot of Oompa Loompa in this.
When you've seen in the trailer is honestly most of his biggest moments.
The trailer is cut up enough to not do this, but I will say that at the end, by the time the film got to the end, I was like, I have seen 80% of the film in the trailer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Or, lots of in quick cut, but it's in the trailer. Yeah. But I'm trying to reserve to not be too overcritical, because it is Christmas. It is a heartwarming film. I don't want to look Sally Hawkins in the eye and go, well, it was not sinister enough.
She's the perfect, the sweet person who says that if we could be nice, it would be nice around the world.
It's, you know what it is, and it's sweet, but lacking a little bit of bite, but it's a comfort film.
It's kind of like when I saw the new Little Mermaid, and I was like, I totally understand that me going to see this alone as a 28-year-old at the time for my film podcast is not what this film was not meant to be dissected in such a way. But therefore, I am trying to evaluate what merit it has for those who are the target audience.
Exactly. But I'm looking forward to going to see it next week with my family.
Nice.
2 days before Christmas, and I can relax into it. I know that I'm not concerned that, oh my God, that's only next week. I'm like, yeah, there's plenty of humorous details in there. I think I'll
with a box of chocolates.
And there was some jokes in it that I thought were actually there are some good jokes in this. Don't get me wrong. There's some very good jokes in this that I thought deserved a bigger audience than the one I was in.
Yeah.
I was like, that joke should have got a bigger laugh.
Yeah.
But filmed and produced and made in England.
Yeah,
it's an English movie produced by Heyday, and a bit like Barbie, which was made and filmed here and stuff.
A lot of stuff's filmed here now.
Yeah, that's it. Bloody British film industry, mate.
Elstree, Pinewood,
it's the place to be. Yeah. Anyway, if you've seen Wonka, which many of you surely have, please let us know your thoughts at hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. I hope we haven't come across as overly critical there.
No,
we did both enjoy it. Like I said, happy to watch it again.
You should see it.
Yes, you should see it and have a lovely, charming time.
That's it. Pulp Kitchen have said, you should see it. The verdict is in.
Again, write into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com with your thoughts. I'm craving chocolate now. Don't know about you. I could smash a bag of
minstrels. I was literally thinking I want like a box of Maltesers. Oh, I want them to roll around.
Here's a question for you. Do you keep your chocolate in the fridge?
No.
Oh, I think you must, James.
No, because you're interfering with... No.
You're not interfering.
You are. The chocolate is designed...
Not designed.
It's designed. Of course it is. Chocolate's designed to melt and at the right amount of time when it's in your mouth. If you start with it cold, you're then delaying that melting.
It's lovely. Enhances the flavour.
No.
It does. It enhances the flavour. Chocolate does taste different when it's in the fridge. You know what I've started to do? I'll even put chocolate digestives in the fridge. Because you get that lovely snap when you do it. I'm a big fan of chocolate in the fridge.
I will indulge you in the summer, but other than that, no, out of the fridge.
As well as your thoughts on Wonka, please email in on whether
chocolate is stored in a cool,
Let me finish.
dry
I'm talking
place.
to the sirens. Please, could you let us know if you agree with keeping chocolate in the fridge, or you can at least see merits to doing it at all times of year.
All chocolate in the fridge, always.
You get a great snap when it's out of the fridge. Yeah.
Do you keep it in the fridge door, like what next to the butter? There's like a thing of chocolate. Yeah, I can picture
it's
it.
lovely. And the Maltesers, because sometimes I find
they're too crunchy. I need them to melt, and then I need the honeycomb to melt on my tongue.
They melt at room temperature. They get all sort of clagging. Your fingers get all sticky.
They don't melt at room temperature.
I don't want to touch chocolate and my fingers be sticky. If they're cold, you're not going to get them.
No, at room temperature, chocolate's fine.
Eat it slower and it'll melt in your mouth.
I do eat it slowly, but then I have an existing
and like
paradigm to my
when they're
chocolate.
cold, that break of the shell.
I like a room temperature minstrel, but my ketchup has to be cold.
Is it because I am heartless? I'm inherently cold-blooded.
You're inherently cold. My ketchup has to be cold, though.
That is an interesting
and I know
one.
A lot of
I don't
people
think
don't.
I agree with that.
My ketchup's cold.
I'm indifferent. I'm indifferent because you like to meet the hotness of the chip with the coldness of the... Now, how is that, in principle, any different to having cold chocolate meeting
Ketchup
warm
isn't
body?
meant to melt in my mouth.
Right, okay.
It doesn't change its entire physicality.
Do you keep butter in the fridge?
Yes.
You don't have normal butter,
I have
do
normal
you?
butter. I do have normal butter.
You should definitely
So I
keep it out
found
of
out
the fridge.
non-normal butter is like
Terrible
full of,
for you,
it's not real butter.
Yeah.
It's that. So now I have hard butter.
Oh, you got to keep it out of the fridge.
Yeah, I have done. I usually take it out before I...
I hate it when you go to get butter and it's like slicing cheese.
Yeah. For years, I had like what I thought was butter, and then I checked the ingredients, and you realise, there's
When
a
you're-
sense of butter in there.
You don't... Oh, no, Marge, get away from it, James.
No, not Marge. I mean like your main brands, the spreadable version.
Oh, yeah, they're spreadable for a reason. Because
Yeah,
they've got stuff in them.
crap in it.
Oh, yeah. No,
guys,
just stick to your
buy
normal...
as God intended, hard cuboid butter.
And sea salted. Lovely.
Oh yeah, salted butter. Can't be.
Absolutely.
I mean, a lot of
try to get away from the refined salt, but the sea salted stuff. Oh, great.
on all the cooking stuff I've ever worked on with chefs who use butter, they always want unsalted butter because they control how much salt is in, and every butter's different. How much salt is in a thing of butter?
Do you know what I love?
But you try it and it tastes like cake.
There's a
It's a cakey because you're not unsalted for baking. Anyway,
there's a pub I love in West London which gives you, I mean, this is not specific to this pub, loads of places do this, but I love it. They give you a great bread spread, soda bread, sourdough, great. And they give you a lovely ramekin of butter and then the sides salt flakes. And you spread the thing and then you salt flake with the thing. Oh,
I like Thomas Straker's videos he does the butter series and he puts like andouille and honey and things like butter. You know where we should go for a meal and a beer? At Guy Ritchie's pub, The Law of the Land.
Where is that?
It's in Fitzrovia. I went there for like a work drinks a while ago and I thought, it's got great food. You and me would absolutely love it. Gorgeous design, and I think we just enjoy the filminess of it. Really, really great pub.
We're meant to be going for a drink tomorrow. Why don't we do it then?
Oh, we could do it tomorrow. It would be good to eat there. We could eat there.
Could you let us know about the chocolate thing though as well, guys? Thanks so much. Anyway, on to the emails.
George, it is email time. We're approaching the end of the year, and therefore the correspondence we're getting is Christmas slanted, which I kind of like. Everyone's like, what are you doing? What are you going to watch? What do you like to watch? What don't you like to watch?
Yes.
As always, guys, send in your thoughts to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. We'd love to hear about what you do and don't, will or won't watch this Christmas.
Excuse me.
God.
Your Christmas watching routines. Film
I'm so glad you stumbled together.
I traumatized myself.
Your rituals, your must-dos, your must-nots. Kiara writes into Kiara writes into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com titled Best and Worst Christmas Films.
Go.
Hey James, hey George.
Hey.
Massive, it's almost like she's not done James and she's
Everyone
just gone,
in all these emails have been very diplomatic.
Very, I think they're realising.
They're like,
Yeah. But behind the camera is just a chalkboard tally. Massive fans of the show in our house. We like to sit down once a week and watch all the eps on YouTube.
watch them
In our house.
Wait, sit down and watch all the eps on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're going to watch all
Massive fans of the
106
show.
episodes every week.
God, there's 107 now. Watch all the apps on YouTube. You may not have made it to my Spotify Wraps, but probably got the YouTube equivalent.
Let's wave to them at home, James.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello in
thanks
your
for
home.
watching.
We're in
Hello.
your house.
It's not a 3D. Oh, yeah.
What can I say? We just like to see your lovely faces. George, smile for the camera. Anyway, guys, if you're not flicking on the video, Get it on. What are you doing? Get the video on. Anyway, thought I'd go with a Christmas-themed question. What are your favorite and least favorite Christmas films? Whether that be hidden gems, overrated nonsense, cozy classics. Personally, I love Love Actually, The Grinch, and Klaus, but can't stand Elf. Controversial? Festive Sirens, and Jingle Bells on my end. Kiara, sent from Outlook from Android. I've heard good things about Klaus.
Klaus, animated.
Klaus, yes, animated. Lots of people said, hey, Klaus is good.
Yes,
not seen it.
So just on Elf, I had last year as well. I feel kind of with Elf. I've only seen it like twice. I'm
probably the same, maybe
like
3
a nice warm attachment to it, but I'm not really that attached to it. But Kiara, you're not the only person I've met who not only dislikes but like vehemently dislikes Elf. They're like, oh, I just can't stand it.
It's a bit Marmite.
But I feel like is there something?
Is it a Will Ferrell thing?
Oh, it could be.
I think Will Ferrell's very Marmite.
I'm trying to think what's the egregious factor in there. What's the really sort of offensively? But maybe it's a Will Ferrell thing.
But I think Elf is cute. Elf is sweet. I think Elf had an appreciation when it came out, and sort of I think laid a little bit dormant. And after gaps from its release date, has found this new surge. And I think the opposite has been happening for a while with Love Actually. Love Actually came out, became adored, and then in like the 5 to 10 years following, an immediate classic. And now it's been very much deconstructed, memed. People have broken down the dynamics. A lot of sort of problematic storylines, and people are now like, really, every Christmas, Love Actually, remember this horrible scene about this thing?
But people are still,
its stock price is going down.
Yeah, but you said that, but people will still watch it.
100%.
So the stock price is going to go down so much.
I'm sure Richard Curtis is rubbing his hands together every November 31st, thinking, I cannot wait.
I know that there are points in Love Actually that are very, very, very questionable, and plot lines that are questionable.
Yeah.
The thing is, but then you get to that Emma Thompson scene with the Joni Mitchell CD, and it's great. And that's that is actually a very good scene. Like,
she's just brilliant. It's one of her best acting.
When Anna and I went into town, we had to go through Peter Jones in Sloane Square, right? Department store. Yeah. And I literally turned to Anna and I said, I tried to do the Alan Rickman Rowan Atkinson better.
Can we be quite quick?
What are you going to do? Put a little bow on it or something?
The slightest touches.
Oh, God, you put it in a little box. In terms of worst Christmas films, a big bone of contention between Anna and I is about The Holiday.
I like The Holiday.
You like The Holiday.
Yeah.
I think The Holiday is, how can I put this like in a nicer way, it is a Hallmark Christmas film with an A-list budget. I think The Holiday is ridiculous. I think some of it is really silly. Some of the dialogue, I just eye rolling. They make one bit as well that really annoys me when they talk about Cary Grant being from Surrey, when everyone knows that Cary Grant was from Bristol. It's famous in like, if you know anything about Cary Grant.
The Holiday is so cozy and twinkly.
Yes, that's my point.
Jude Law in that film.
Yeah, what a daddy.
It's between The Holiday and Talented Mr. Ripley for peak Jude Law.
Yeah,
I can't
agree.
tell if you want the young Cuban
or
knit,
the widowed.
Or you want twinkly widow, with that scarf.
I know The Holiday is revered by a lot of people, and Anna really doesn't like it.
Really?
I think I've
heard
Anna loves it. She doesn't like the fact that I don't like it.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
fights at Christmas.
I accept that it's like, I've only seen it once, and maybe I need to watch it again. But I just feel it has that feeling of, it's a Hallmark Christmas film.
What I will say, not trying to say I'm so trendy with my Christmas films, like 8-9 years ago, me and my family really would like seek out The Holiday, because again, like these things need to come out and have some time. We'd be like, oh, it's so cozy. But then like now I feel like it's become this like legacy with love. It's up there with Love Actually, I think. Are you going to watch Love Actually or The Holiday? And I feel like we're almost a bit like, yeah, okay, we've been and done it. I get it.
I have done, though, having said all that about The Holiday, I have done Mr. Napkin Head to people.
Why am I not surprised? Surely people just think that's so cringe. He's trying to be Jude Law for The Holiday.
Really funny. Thank you, James. I love, in terms of what we love, obviously, if you've been listening to this podcast a long time, you know that James and I absolutely love The Grinch. And we quote that in my family all year round. We quote that in my family all year round, just whatever. I also love
summer, winter.
Yeah, you and I all the time love The Muppets Christmas Carol. That will instantly get me Christmassy. The music, that's a good musical. That's a Christmassy one. That's got darkness in it too. I wouldn't call it a jump scare. There's a bit in The Muppets Christmas Carol with the door knocker when Michael Caine first goes home, and it turns into the face of one of the Marley brothers, and it scares the bejesus out. Well, it scared the bejesus out. I mean, I do like Die Hard. Actually, I have to say, I do really like it.
You know, it's also a Christmas film that's not a Christmas film. Mary Poppins, for that same reason, is dark and sad for like most of the second half.
Yeah.
like realize that all
And then
the
you
stuff
get
about
that
Mr. Banks.
huge lift at the end with "Let's go."
It's beautiful.
Fly a kite.
Stunning.
Sorry.
But yeah, all those like sad, scary people, the horrible bankers, all the sad, like, no, he didn't know, and he did this, Father. Please spend time with us.
Well, see also It's a Wonderful Life. You've seen that?
Yeah.
I mean, wonderful. I mean, it's a wonderful film.
Yeah.
I mean, that is, if you actually haven't seen that, I would say that is
that's very
pretty
good.
much the Christmas film to go
A
to.
thinking man's Christmas film.
It really is, though. It
Discerning,
is fantastic.
It's been on It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, it's so good. And you cry.
I've only seen it once. I think I think
it's
saw it
such a
at
wonderful
school
film.
or at some sort of institution. I can't remember what.
It is a wonderful film.
Yeah.
So watch that. And then also, I would say it's not a canonical Christmas movie, but I've said this before. One of my favorite films is The Apartment from 1960. And that is set over the Christmas period over Christmas and up to New Year. And that's like It's a Wonderful Life. It's funny, heartwarming, charming, and has a big section of darkness in it too.
I think one day you and I should rewatch The Grinch and we should do a scene-by-scene breakdown of the entire movie in a podcast.
I think it's a masterpiece.
I really, really do.
No, but that is so funny, The Grinch. I love it. Actually, you know what? I haven't watched that in a few years. I'm going to go back to it.
I could whip it out. I could turn. Things my family wouldn't be into it because they don't like Jim Carrey.
What?
They won't like silly Jim Carrey. No, they don't like silly.
They're like,
comedy
they're a Truman Show.
yeah. Well, no, I just don't. Yeah,
are we watching Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind?
Yeah.
The Grinch? No, thank you.
No, they'll like Truman Show. They'll be like,
I know.
he's just very silly. Whereas I'm like, no other human being could do this performance.
Hours of makeup he sat through.
Totally. Yeah.
That film
6 hours
he is structurally integral to that entire film.
And even Jim Carrey gets lost in that character. You can see Jim Carrey comedy, but I don't see Jim Carrey. He's the Grinch.
Are you two still living? The bit when he gets Max,
bored?
he puts the red nose on Max, and he does a whole skit about being like a casting director, saying, like, "Okay, your name's Rudolph. See, you like driving Santa sleigh." Action! Brilliant! You reject your own nose.
I love it when the Grinch goes to get the tablecloth and he whips it out so quickly that the tea is perfectly there, but because the Grinch just wants to ruin everything, he just looks at it. That's not rough enough. But then how do you write that? How do you write that scene? I just don't get it.
And then he puts the tablecloth on, and Max looks at him and he's like, "It's not a dress, it's a kilt, you sicko." We must move on. But yes, thank you for getting us talking about the Grinch. What a great film.
I can't cancel that again.
Okay, this next email is from Rutger, and Rutger says, "Hello, George and James." Rutger here. Sorry, James. Hello, George and James. Rutger here, first-time emailer from the Netherlands.
Nice.
Hello. Have we had an email from the Netherlands before?
Yeah.
We might have done.
Yeah,
we have done, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello again from the Netherlands. As I am slowly working my way through your lovely back catalogue, a question popped into my head. I don't know if it has ever been asked before. If that's the case, ignore this email, and I will hear it eventually in the podcast down the line. But my question is, has there ever been a movie or TV show that you wished had a sequel but doesn't have one? The last time I remember I really felt this way was with myself with a TV show called I Am Not Okay With This, starring Sophia Lillis. Amazing show, cliffhanger ending, and then it got discontinued by Netflix. Very unsatisfying. I'm curious if you've ever had an experience like this. Thank you, reading, and keep up the good work.
We have answered this question. One of my answers is The Social Network. But while I'd say...
Oh, you wish it had a sequel?
I wish I had a sequel. But like less so, a direct sequel of most of those characters. I more want the approach and sort of narrative direction of that film to address social media. Now it has evolved so much. I almost wonder if we're not quite ready. We still need a few more years to come from what has happened with social media since that film came out. I think there's a really interesting conversation to have in cinema about what people created and the impact it has had in a film of the caliber that like a Sorkin and Fincher could conjure up like The Social Network. I don't need to see what Eduardo Saverin's up to. Unless you're telling me there's a story I don't know about. But I would take Jesse Eisenberg and evolve it and take me down the next phase.
So that's less about something being unfinished. It's more about like if you could wish that into being, it would be.
Yeah.
Also, but I think that like a film about new media like this and the way that we consume information would almost have to be something as like avant-garde as like that Bo Burnham's Inside.
Yeah,
like that tells you a lot about social media.
Really well done,
experiential level. More than just like a straight thing. Because we have answered this question before, Rutger, and I'm going to say what I always say, and people who have listened to the show a long time will know what I'm going to say, which is, and speaking of David Fincher, which is Mindhunter, the series, which I've said that answer for so long that now I'm thinking, did I like that show? Did I really like it? No, I did. Mindhunter 2 seasons of it on Netflix. Fantastic series about the FBI, basically the people who came up with the word serial killer. This break off of the FBI that was looking at profiling killers and looking for patterns between them, and actually everything we know about serial killers and killing as a pattern. I mean, think how big true crime is as a whole genre, and crime is as a content that we consume. That whole notion comes down to these people, these honestly like a handful of people who are trying to define how these people worked. And you've got 2 FBI agents and a psychologist working together. Great first series, excellent second series, and then and it just they stopped making it. But David Fincher was like, it's too hard.
He's recently also said, stop asking.
Yeah, he said, stop asking. It's too hard. It's too exhausted. And I'm like, well, don't start it then.
Yeah.
You've started. And what was annoying is that
films
at the
are
beginning of every episode, there would be sometimes only a 10-second clip of a meta story, a macro storyline that they were building up to, which will never get finished now. The thing is, that was 4 years ago, the last series, and he's made 2 films since then. I don't think we're ever going to get a final to that series.
I just really wish they'd tell me more about that Luke Skywalker guy. You know, what's going on with him? Did him and Leia have a chat and just go, look, some stuff happened?
You mean basically
Don't
we need to
tell Han.
let's just have more about all the characters we already know. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like, how about
Another Willy Wonka film.
Yeah.
Let's have
Wild Hogs on our end. So sorry.
Yeah.
This next one is from Jack, who writes in and says, "Hey up, lads. First of all, I want to say thank you for being one of my favourite pods I listened to this year. You were my number 1 on Spotify Wrapped."
You're our number 1.
Yeah, you're our number 1. I usually listen when having a gaming session. It feels like I'm having a nice chat with my pals down the pub. Jack, I love to listen to podcasts. When I've finished the story, but I want to platinum a game, and I have like a bunch of icons on the map I want to clear off, I will then put on... I've done everything narratively I need to with it. I'll then put on a podcast and like polish it off.
That used to be,
such a nice way to spend my time.
That used to be my favourite way to relax. Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Great.
See the new trailer for 6?
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Can't get Tom Petty out of my head.
Biggest trailer ever.
Yeah.
You know what I was thinking? Sorry, Jack, I will get back to your email. You know what I was thinking is that impact of not coming out with something for 10 years. GTA 5 came out in 2013. And it's obviously like been very... I think it made $33 billion with a B. So
thank you.
That's like a shitload of money.
Yeah,
it's the highest grossing IP. I'm almost like, there's something to be said about resting your IP and letting it breathe.
Do not
you have something that's
your
really
market.
good.
Yeah.
Whereas Marvel is struggling to make $1 billion with 33 films, and GTA 5 in 10 years has made 33 billion.
Very, very.
So you have to look at that
you.
and go, well, hang on. What have we got here? We've got an IP that people really care about. And that game will now become the most expensive game ever developed. I'm sure it'll be $1 billion game. There'll be infinite resource. And also they did make Red Dead Redemption 2 in the middle of that, which is not like they were dormant. But like in terms of IP, it's just something to be said about, hey, just let something rest. The fact that you have MCU or whatever other Star Wars thing on it does not guarantee that people are going to want to pay loads of money to go and see it. I'm just saying, it's quite telling. Anyway, Jack, I did find you on the app that shares its name with a Kesha song, and since finding, I've been listening to the back catalogue. I love the games you play, and I often play along. Well, Jack, stay tuned, we've got games. Now to the questions. 1, as it's getting close to Christmas, I wondered if there are any non-Christmas films you watch every year that have become a tradition in your respective households. For me and my brother watch Cars 1 on Christmas Eve. We've been doing this since 2008 or 2009 when we recorded it when it was on TV on the original BBC 3 before it went online. George, I talked about Cars last week.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. You fan?
I've never seen it.
Well, there you go. Number 2, how would you describe a film as a... Do you have a tradition? I would kind of covered this. Do you have any non-Christmas films that you might watch? Mary Poppins.
Well, I've said like The Apartment, When Harry Met Sally, Planes, Trains and Automobiles, which is a Thanksgiving film but works as a Christmas film. I in general, any old film, black and white films.
I never gave it enough love to...
Powell and Pressburger, David Lean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I never sort of gave a shout out once more to Saving Mr. Banks. I think that film's great.
Oh, that's a good Christmas film. Well done.
It's a Christmas film that isn't Christmassy.
Yes, Anna loves that film.
Yeah,
that's a...
I saw that for the first time and I was like, yeah, sure. For some reason, it just didn't get me. Watched it again with Talia on a laptop in bed, bawling our eyes out.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't I remember this film absolutely getting to me?
That's a really good shout. Yeah. Also, No, I have no also. Just older films. Go back in time a little bit.
Yeah.
Shrink back into the comfort of how
Christmas is conducive to old-fashioned things.
Yeah.
They become inherently Christmassy.
If you're not sat on the sofa with a glass of port watching one of those old movies that it's black and white and it has the crackle.
Port. You can drink something else.
Of course you can drink something else, James. I'm just building an image for the listeners. Thank you.
Slippers? You got slippers on?
Who doesn't in the winter? Like Christ, who walks around just shoes?
Yeah.
I'm losing my thread here.
Sorry.
You want to be watching an old black and white film that has the crackle of the audio on it, and it has really weird spacing. So
Well, why would you want to?
Yeah.
Johnson.
Is that the phone ringing? Counts into 3, 2, 5. Well, of course I can't get up to that, Larry. Yeah, I must do. And you go, oh, it's lovely. And then you nod off for about 20 minutes. You come back in.
I hope one day we spend an entire day talking like oldie people in films. Well, what do you want? Well, you got to go over there, see?
And if you do want to watch a film where people talk like that, fast-talking newspaper people, you want to watch what I watched a couple of Christmases ago, which is Howard Hawks' 1940 film, His Girl Friday, a classic with Cary Grant, who is from Bristol, right?
Did I see this?
Have you ever seen His Girl Friday? You might have done. I'm not expecting you to have seen it, but really good. And it's fucking old now, but it was made at 1940, and it has that point where the war had begun, but America wasn't in it. And there's a line there where Cary Grant goes, "I don't want to cover the European war. I want to cover something else." And everything's very quick, but it's very, very funny.
Yeah.
Great for Christmas. His Girl Friday.
Sorry. Back to Jack's email. How would you describe? And this is his second point.
Second question.
How would you describe a film as a favorite? I would say a favorite is one I can watch over and over again and not get bored, and also quote along while watching or just randomly during the day. George, what makes a film a favorite?
I think that criteria is accurate. I think rewatchability is key.
Something that resonates with you.
Something that still gives you rewards your viewing. So still gives you something. I also think if you're talking about deep favorites, like top films that you watch and not only still surprise you, but they remind you of why you love films to start with, and make you kind of just go, oh, yeah. It's like going to church. It's like, I'm not religious, but like the same feeling. If I go and watch a really excellent film, I go and see one of my true favorites. Like when I talked about There Will Be Blood earlier this year, or when I watched Before Sunset, I will come out and I would
I caught the variety conversation between Carey Mulligan and Michael Fassbender, and I don't always have an appetite for these variety actors on actors things, because sometimes they can be a little bit
stilted,
overindulgent, or like, let me compliment you and you compliment me. Whereas I really like Carey Mulligan as an off-screen presence, as an out-of-film presence. She's very grounded, feels very normal.
She's good in films as well.
She's just a very talented actress. And Michael Fassbender also very reserved and very cool. Yeah. And they had a really great conversation. And they talked. One of the first things they talked about was when they worked together in Shane. And the way they talked about the film and the process of working on it reminds me of how much I love that film. How interesting it is. How complex it are. Those characters are so well told. Yeah. A really interesting, uncliched film about addiction. It reminded me of like why that film resonated with me so much when I watched it, and I'm now like desperate to rewatch it if I can. But yeah, like shame. It's just something about it just hooks you.
But also by contrast, like let's choose a slightly less beard strokey one. Let's choose something like Aliens for me. Like I say it's a favorite. I don't put it up there so much, but like I know I can always watch that film and get something out of it. It's the joy of watching something like that is watching a very the mechanics of a machine whirl and spin and in front of your very eyes, and that kind of like delight. That's what makes it a favorite film.
Next up, number 3. I'm thinking of doing my own podcast in the new year and wondered if you had any tips and advice.
I mean, how long have you got?
Quickly,
just
tip.
Be consistent.
Yeah.
It will be hard. Don't do anything that you won't be. Think to yourself, you're going to be talking about a certain subject for a certain amount of time every week, for as long as you're willing to do this for, and for as long as people are willing to listen, or they might not listen straight away. So just be consistent and yeah. James?
My tip is also be consistent. Focus less on do not agonize over episode 1 or episodes 1 to 20 and focus less on not what you're going to say, but put yourself in a position to consistently be able to make something over a long period of time. The game is you will hopefully hate your first 20 episodes. So just like be liberated by the fact that you'll probably hate them and just keep moving.
Well, not hate, but you're growing.
Not hate them. You'll go. Your first 20 episodes will be your least favorite pieces of content that you'll make.
Yes.
So
also,
get going.
Do like we did like 4 test episodes.
Yeah,
before
just
we
to
went
figure
to
out
air.
what the show was, and even
Go
then,
through the
first
process.
13
How
were a food show.
what does it feel like to edit? What does it feel like to cut it? Where do you think the rhythm
The
is?
logistics of like if you're doing it with another person, how are they going to come over once a week to do it? How are you going to edit it in time? How do you want to output it? What's the look and feel? Yeah. But don't agonize. Start first, and all of that comes. If you're engaged,
you can't learn it all beforehand.
No, if you
Especially
are
if you're on your
applied,
own.
you're engaged and interested in what you're doing, you will naturally course correct throughout the entire time. We have conversations almost every day about where the show goes and how it goes. So that's our advice. Once again, I want to thank you for the pod, as I found it the best way to discover new film recommendations and opinions on films I enjoy. I have Barbarian and Men lined up to watch on my days off over the Christmas period. Gnarly little double bill there.
For Christmas time as well. Really gnarly double bill.
Yeah, that's cool. All the best. Jack from Donny. Merry Christmas. The sirens are on your end.
This last email is from Lucy, who says, some thoughts on recent films. Hello, George and James. James and George. Sorry, I am neutral in the name debate. I've been listening to your podcast since about episodes...
Well, sorry, technically, Lucy, you went George and James first.
Yes, because she's
and
seeing
then
left
James
to right.
George, so therefore implies that one is the... There's no neutrality here.
Lucy, I love you. I've been listening to your podcast since about episode 6, and I've only grown to love it more and more every week. Didn't know where that sentence was going. I'm writing from Melbourne, where I have recently seen Saltburn with my boyfriend and friend, and we had the best time cringing and laughing throughout it. I found it visually captivating and unexpectedly twisted, but also did find it lengthy and lacking backstory, which made it fall a bit short at the end. After listening to your review on Saltburn and getting those disappointed that you didn't have as much fun as I did, I then went and watched The Talented Mr. Ripley and after trusting your recommendation. This film was amazing. What an incredibly written story that was told truthfully, surrounded by great performances. I loved how the suspension in the story was around Tom deceiving everyone, which was something Saltburn didn't really include. Yeah, because Saltburn it just isn't as well written as Talented Mr. Ripley is a masterpiece. If I had seen The Talented Mr. Ripley prior to Saltburn, my experience would have definitely been entirely different. Sorry for the lengthy review, but just wanted to say a massive thank you for this movie recommendation, as well as a much earlier recommendation of yours, which was, of course, the Before trilogy, which changed me as a person and is now in my top favourite films ever. Thank you, George. That's an amazing thing to say.
That was the thing you picked up on when we talked about Saltburn. It's like you'd spoken to people who hadn't seen Brideshead or Ripley. Yeah. It's like, that's quite an obvious. For us, that screams at us when we're watching it, which is fine.
Distracting,
but that's a very different experience to have seen those films and then watch Saltburn.
Lucy then asked, my question to you guys is, have you ever been recommended a film or TV series that took you by surprise and that you absolutely loved? I find recommendations to be hit or miss a lot of the time. Hope you guys have a restful break over Christmas and New Year's. Thank you so much for the work you put into this podcast. I'm excited to see what's next to come. Cheers, Lucy.
My best mate pushed Succession to me like when only 4 or 5 episodes of season 1 were out. And I was like, cool, I'm going to need like more people. Just like classic, I need more people to recommend it to me. But he was very much, Succession's a really shit hot show. You should check it out.
My girlfriend got me into a show called Feel Good, which is on Netflix with Lisa Kudrow and Mae Martin and Charlotte Ritchie, which I'd scroll past on the carousel, but ended up being like one of the best things I've seen in ages. A really good, underseen comedy series.
You also said Emily in Paris. You were surprised by how much you enjoyed it.
That's
as well.
different.
Different, but
yeah,
you were like, you had a really good time watching it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Don't back out.
No. It's just that I still like think
regard it.
It's still trivial.
Yeah.
Whereas Feel Good was genuinely like good piece of I was more surprised that I didn't find it like, I was swept up by its charm.
Yes, I wasn't putting them in the same boat.
No,
it's like full stop separately.
Yeah, Emily in Paris. I will say that. Yeah, and when the new series comes out, I'll go, oh yeah, I'll give that a go. It has its place.
You said something with, and you know what, which to me implies like it's actually quite.
Yeah, and you know what? Yeah,
I don't know what you said, but there was that. And you know what?
I think you'd be the same. I think if I left you in a room for a week, I don't know, so dark. If I gave it to
please chain to a radiator. My eyes.
If over Christmas you could only watch Emily in Paris, I bet by New Year you'd come in and you go, well, the thing is with Gabrielle, I don't know what he's going to do with Emily and
I believe it too.
Lucy, thank you very much for your emails. Thank you everyone for your emails this week.
Guys, don't forget, if you wanted to send an email to the show, send us all things Christmas, families, or Frosty January? I'm interested to hear in what's gonna take you out of the Frosty January
Do you
slump.
have any film or podcast related New Year's resolutions?
Yes, love that.
But this is not our end of year show yet. We shouldn't lean too hard.
true.
That's to come.
It's coming. So, as always, hello at PulpKitchenPodcast.com. George, let's play a game. George, as always, Pulp Kitchen ends
with a game.
with a game. As always, guys, please feel free to play along with George. Right, now, George, you and I have done for tens of episodes now the Name 7 in 30.
Yep.
Very good fun. I give you some random thing. You got to search
Yep.
the encyclopedia of Mind Palace films. You have to sort of find things as quickly as you can.
Do you know, I'm actually so nervous about this game. I feel like putting my glasses on
gonna
somehow
help.
makes me more alert.
Yeah, it can do. And they're very good, and it's sort of, hard, but in such a short time frame.
Yeah.
Your brain just works in a very different way.
Yes.
Now, I want the crack cocaine version of that game. So instead of me saying, I want you to name me 7 blah blah films in 30 seconds, in one round, I'm going to do easier questions, but you have 6 seconds to give me 3 things. But they're going to start easy and get harder and harder and harder until you just fail or explode.
Okay.
We've also got more rounds of either or. So, George, I'm only going to do one of these. But in all of these, you have to name me 3 in 6 seconds. So you have 2 seconds on average to get me a film. For anyone listening, George is like withdrawn into his arms.
I'm so
He's
nervous.
made himself very small. Guys, playing along at home, if you don't know the game, it will become
What I
very
found
clear.
with these games is I just need I pick a point in the room to look at, and I don't look at anything else. I just have to think about this one thing.
But react, because it makes for good social media content.
Okay.
Answer each of these questions within 6 seconds. They're going to get harder. Ready? Name 3 Spielberg films.
Jaws, E.T., and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Name 3 Kate Winslet films.
The Reader, Titanic, and Revolutionary Road.
Name 3 male actors who have won Academy Award for Best Actor.
Denzel Washington, Mark Rylance, and Daniel Day-Lewis.
Name 3 Barry Keoghan films.
Killer Who Gives Sacred Deer, Saltburn, and The Midnight Banshees of Inisherin.
Name 3 films with water in the title.
Waterworld, Avatar: The Way of the Water, and the Water Boy.
Just name 3 films with a cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
Time!
Which films end with a cliffhanger?
Back to the Future.
That's not a cliffhanger.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's a
Yeah, it
tease.
is.
That's a cliffhanger would be like, oh my god, what's going to happen? Their fate is
Empire Strikes
hanging.
Back.
Not a cliffhanger.
He literally is hanging.
No,
he's literally
he gets,
hanging.
no, he's not. He's on the ship. He gets picked up.
Yes,
not a cliffhanger.
But,
not
but Darth
a
Vader's Luke's father counts.
The fate of your character needs to be in peril.
For TV shows, I would give that.
Not a cliffhanger.
And then the last one we didn't get to for fun. Name 3 Matt Damon cameos.
Euro Trip, Thor Ragnarok, and Thor Love and Thunder.
Nice. You were like a volcano exploding.
I did it though.
You did well though. You did really well.
I did all of them except for cliffhangers.
You did all of them except for cliffhangers, yeah.
And you couldn't even name me a cliffhanger.
Well, I think I named appropriate. So Back to the Future.
No, that's no cliffhanger. Everyone, write in and comment about what
What
cliffhanger is.
maketh a cliffhanger? Next up, what would be a cliffhanger then? The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug.
Well, what have we done?
Yeah, that's a cliffhanger.
Sure.
That's such a hard cliffhanger though.
Yeah, it's not great.
Just back to the thing. Okay, George. Next
That
up.
won't affect that.
No, that won't affect that. Next up is your second least favorite game behind Co-Star Countdown, depending on your energy, time of day, and how far you've eaten. This is either or. I'm going to present you with 2 films, actors, characters, entities, foods, and you have to directors, and you have to tell me which one in quickfire you prefer. Some of these are very much related, and they have like a similar cast or theme or genre. Some of them aren't. I don't need the backstory. I want pure,
gut,
raw.
I know you really did shout at me last time, James. I got quite scared.
Yeah. I felt bad in the end. I was like, maybe I should be easier on George.
Yeah.
I'm ready, George. Are you?
Yes.
Okay, George. Either or. Tell me which one of these you prefer: The Revenant or Birdman?
The Revenant.
Jason Statham or Mark Wahlberg?
Mark Wahlberg.
Deepwater Horizon or Independence Day?
Oh, Independence Day.
No Country for Old Men or A Clockwork Orange?
No Country for Old Men.
7 or Psycho?
7.
Scarlett Johansson or Emma Stone?
Emma Stone.
Liam Neeson or Domhnall Gleeson?
Ooh, Domhnall Gleeson.
Domhnall Gleeson. Bananas or oranges?
Orange. Yeah, bananas.
Oh, About a Boy or About Time?
About time.
Ang Lee or Spike Lee?
Ang Lee.
Black Swan or Red Sparrow?
Black Swan.
Kramer versus Kramer or Alien versus Predator?
Kramer versus Kramer.
There you go. That was round one.
I did all right. I didn't demur too much.
I can't remember. Did you go bananas or oranges?
Well, I went to say oranges because I do like an orange, but then I have a banana every day.
Oh wow!
So I'd be like, you got to have a banana every day.
Glowing with potassium.
Yeah, very important. That's my one a day.
Yeah. And then
I feel weird if I haven't eaten a banana every day.
Wow. Yeah. I can't stand the banana.
Oh yeah, you're one of those. Kind of like the girl in 8th grade.
They smell. They are the worst food waste byproduct. So nobody likes your banana peel. It's worse than the apple core. It's worse than the orange peel. The banana peel is the worst.
I think the banana is the most socially acceptable fruit to eat in public.
Rubbish. That's said from a banana.
Noiseless, odorless.
In cartoons, when they do trash, horrible, disgusting, it's always the banana skin at the top of the garbage pan.
James, the world is a messy place, and I'm just happy and I'm willing and I'm open to the chaos of it.
George, this is your final round of the day and your second round of either or. You have to tell me which one of these you prefer. Hugh Grant or Colin Firth?
Hugh Grant.
Borat or Bruno?
Borat.
Midsummer or Hereditary?
Hereditary. Fargo
or In Bruges?
In Bruges.
R2-D2 or C-3PO?
R2-D2.
Colin Farrell or Matthew McConaughey?
Colin Farrell.
Sausages or steak?
Sausages.
Anya Taylor-Joy or Chris Pratt?
Anya Taylor-Joy.
School of Rock or Freaky Friday?
School of Rock.
Tropic Thunder or The Curious Case of Benjamin Button?
Tropic Thunder.
Catherine Bigelow or David Cronenberg?
Catherine Bigelow.
Last one, Mrs. Doubtfire or Goldeneye?
Goldeneye. Big time. Yeah. Both Pierce Brosnan movies.
That's the link. Yeah. Completely unrelated otherwise.
Yeah. And would never work as a double bill.
No, not at all.
I don't think.
But Brosnan on the was he already cast as James Bond when that was
No,
out? He was on the verge?
I don't think. Well, Doubtfire was 93, GoldenEye's 95, 96.
So it was his audition, really.
Probably.
His Bond audition.
And they said, "Do you want to stay away from comedy? Do you want to do?"
Yeah.
He was what a handsome man. He is.
Brosnan,
I mean, still suave. But
Pierce Brosnan
in the 90s,
he just dresses himself now as a man in his 60s. He looks.
I think he's 72.
Oh, he looks fantastic. Though.
I mean, he. I say this very comfortable in my own, skin.
Gorgeous.
But I'm like, wow. He was just.
Bond,
he really
James
was
Bond.
handsome. He had
So
strong
cool.
features, but blue eyes and sort of.
We grew up on him as well, Brosnan.
Yeah, he is our Bond.
Yeah.
He's my. I mean, I'm not attached to Bond. If someone says, "Who's your Bond?" I go, not all the time, but when I think of James Bond,
God, that'd be terrifying. Ornithologist. I'm here for the birds.
What's that from?
Die of the day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, there you go, guys.
Thank you very
Those were the
much.
games for today. That also concludes episode 106. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Don't forget, I was a little bit late last week. I was in Scotland. We post new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
And don't forget, guys, of course, please continue to like, follow, subscribe, and do everything with the show on social media. We post lots of exciting stuff. We've been to lots of screenings and premieres recently. You can keep up with that. And we post all the sort of fun little highlights in the show across their stuff. And please like and rate our show and just spread the word. It really helps and supports us and allows us to grow and keep doing this, which we really want to do.
If, like me, you need at least 3 people to tell me I need 3 people to tell me to watch a TV show before I go and do it. Be one of the 3 of the podcast. When it was like, oh, PULP KITCHEN, they'd be like, yes, someone else said PULP KITCHEN. I might actually give that a go. Give us a go.
Thank you very much. Have a great week. Enjoy this Christmas season, and we'll speak to you next week.
Fun Christmas, New Year's content coming.
Yes.
Stay tuned. PULP KITCHEN Awards, George. It's a black tie affair.
Yes. That's not next week's episode.
No, but it's coming.
It's coming. It is coming.
The PULP KITCHEN Awards are coming.
James, let the people go. They're busy.
Okay, right, bye.
Bye.